Have you checked the children? You're a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Wolfman.
And we are here to review both of our favorite movie of the year, I think, thus far. Or the exact opposite. I mean, maybe not the exact opposite, but yeah, nonetheless, we're going to get into it here because today we're talking about the third in the trilogy about one of my top 3 favorite comic book characters of all time, Venom: The Last Dance. And
emphasis on the last word.
Yeah, hope to God it's the last Sony Venom movie. Like,
oh man.
All right, so yeah, let's get into the overall thoughts. And
yeah.
I did not like this movie. So just to give my to give context for the films thus far, I thought Venom 1 was a gross mischaracterization of the character, but it was at least somewhat entertaining. I thought they did way too many missteps in the second movie, and they ruined Carnage almost completely. And I was very scared about the third one because they advertised that it was going to be a movie dealing with Null. And without spoiling anything, it was, let's just say it's very disappointing for a reason I didn't quite anticipate. Yeah, the movie was just completely forgettable. Well, not completely forgettable. There's a couple moments here and there, but yeah, I mean, I really disliked it.
Yeah, like this movie has its merits. Like there are some good standing points with this movie, but overall, yeah, it was like another really bad iteration of Venom.
It's a continuation of the badness.
It is, and the sad thing is, it's like they made him a little puss kind of.
It's slapstick Venom.
It is. It's slapstick Venom, and it's like there's one scene in particular where it's like it came out of left field, and it made no sense, and it just completely diverted the whole thing that they were trying to avoid the entire time.
Yeah, there's some very questionable choices made.
Absolutely,
and like it was even beholden to itself where. Like, it had the scene in the second movie where Venom was, like, cooking for Eddie. Yeah. And so they had to have a scene like that and where Venom's trying to do something for Eddie, make a drink this time. And it's like,
yep.
I don't care spoiling that because it's the very beginning of the movie. True. But it's like, what it showed to me was like, oh, no, we're already beholden to ourselves. Like, we think that this was good enough that we needed to repeat it. Oh no!
But here's the thing, though. It's like he almost kind of he's getting like that Thor syndrome. So it's like he'll like at the end of like one movie he'll get himself back or whatever and be all strong, high and mighty. And then all of a sudden in the next movie
he's regressed.
He's regressed and he's just some broken, frail, like schizophrenic or whatever. And like I'm sick of seeing an Eddie Brock version of that. He's a fucking puss. Like he's always going around scared.
They have to reset him at the beginning of every movie for some reason.
Yeah, and then at the very end, oh, now he's he's better, he's healthier,
he's confident, all that stuff. Yeah.
Why?
It's really, again, it's a gross mischaracterization of both Eddie Brock and Venom, but it's what the audiences have paid to see. I honestly think they've just paid to see Venom. Like, I think if Venom had been done right, it would have been just as successful. Unfortunately, it was done this way, and they think that was the reason for his success, and so they needed to make 2 more exactly like it. And I was disappointed in this one like I was disappointed in the others. I still don't know if I dislike the second one or this one more. I think I dislike the second one more because this wasn't like completely pooping on one of the characters that I love in Carnage.
That's fair.
Like,
yeah.
So this you had a bit more room to maneuver because I didn't have any. Well, I had emotional attachment to one character, Null, and I won't say what happens, obviously, but I definitely was dissatisfied with what happens with Null. Null was done very cool.
Yeah, let's just say,
Null was done very cool.
It was a yes and no.
Yeah.
But a story standpoint.
Yeah, that's true. It was like one of the coolest things, and then it was like...
Yeah. Basically, yeah. Yeah, it basically just gave you a little peck on the cheek. You were like, hey, here I am.
Yeah.
But no, it was
next time, soldier.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? Like-
yeah. I'm just wetting your whistle.
Yeah.
You know.
Jesus Christ.
But again, though, I will
For the
that was-
thriving Sonyverse.
That was
the thriving Sonyverse. Oh my god.
That was at least I should say one of the merits is seeing that in the design of Null and the creatures. That looked fucking cool.
Yeah, no, that
That looked
sequence,
fucking cool.
yeah, that sequence that you see sort of glimpses of in the trailer was really well done. And
Absolutely.
as someone that loves Null enough that where producer Dave and I did a vocal and visual presentation of Venom #4, which was the origin of Null. That is on the channel. Like, you guys can go back and see. I performed Null because the whole issue was narrated by Null. It was the origin of Null and the fact that the Clintar made a planet as his cage. Like, that was all from the comic. And I literally, we literally did that on the channel. So if you're curious about Null, definitely look up that episode. In fact, I'll link to it at the end of this review. But, so needless to say, I was very, very excited about Null. Very, very excited about Null. Moving on. So yeah, did you technically say your overall thoughts?
Overall thoughts.
You
piggybacked, I know.
but,
I was back and forth and shit. But overall, it was another flop personally for me in the Venom verse.
Yes.
Again, it was one of those. I was so hopeful in the beginning for that when the first movie came out, and even some of the earlier test footage, I'm like, oh, that looks pretty fucking cool and promising. It's just why with the fucking humor? He's an anti-hero.
Yeah.
Like he's not gonna be piss cracking jokes every 5 seconds.
They make him a total goofball.
And don't get me wrong.
Goofball.
And I had mentioned to you in the car, there was one moment with one of the characters that was kind of sweet, and I did appreciate that side of Venom.
Yeah.
Without spoiling stuff. But yeah. So overall, it was fucking pretty bad again.
So getting into the story, I mean, the story is expressed in the trailer, but if you haven't seen the trailer, Eddie and Venom are on the run after the events of the second movie because all of the carnage that happened as a result of Carnage was basically pinned on Eddie Brock and Venom after the movie. And so he's on the run. He's still in Mexico, where he's been since his quick dalliance into the Spider-Verse and back. But yeah, and so they left off Venom 2 with like a cliffhanger, making us think that toxin was going to be a thing because the cop that was impaled at the end, like a symbiote, like glommed onto him, and it was going to make sense because toxin is a black and red symbiote, and this would have been a mixture of Venom and Carnage, and it would have made a ton of sense. And then they do pick up with that character in this movie, but it is not toxin. It is done completely differently, and also like booted off into the sunset super quickly. Like, it's like they abandoned that thread so fast.
They put him in there just to have, it's like, hey, look at this eye candy.
Yeah, and
I will say, so
he's the exposition.
So now that we're talking about the symbiotes and everything, let's at least go into like the effects. There were some merits again with some of the symbiote designs, and like I did like a lot of them, especially the snake like one you had mentioned.
Yeah, there
were really cool designs that they had for all these symbiotes, but holy crap, they were completely underutilized
and underbaked. So yeah, but effects wise, since you jumped to it, we would have got there, but yeah, since you jumped to it, the effects were fine, but it was a very CG heavy movie. I mean, as we were waiting for the post-credit sequences, because there's a mid-credit sequence and a post-credit sequence. The mid-credit sequence was a lot more satisfying, but nonetheless, Robert pointed out as we were watching the credits, he's like, God, like, 2/3 of this is all special effects houses, and I'm like, yeah, that's because it was so effects heavy, like probably 60% of the shots in the movie had effects in some way,
and here's the
shape,
funny
or form.
thing too is you can kind of tell like the style wasn't always consistent with certain visual effects shots. Like they were, but they weren't. I know there's some shots looked better than others, especially the night and the darker shots. They looked great, but all the daytime visual
when you
effects,
can obscure it with shadows and stuff, it makes it a lot easier to get away with. But,
well, yeah,
but there is a lot of
sake.
daytime stuff, and the new creatures that you see in the trailer that Null sends out into the universe to find what he's looking for. They're at least they're vicious, and there's one really cool aspect about them.
Yeah,
the fact that they actually are very deadly eaty creatures.
But
like a wood chipper. Yeah, it's really interesting how they're portrayed, but they're essentially like insects mixed with the Brood, which, if you are familiar with X-Men lore, is a particular designed alien race. That their heads look like the Alien Queen head, essentially, with the big shield and stuff like that. So the big insect creatures are along those lines design wise, and they're nigh invincible. You know what I mean? Like, it's because they're symbiotes. Technically, like, they can be hacked up and pull themselves back together and stuff. So it presents a big problem, but ultimately the resolution, like, the resolution is one of the most thick contrivances in film I've ever seen. Like, they introduced something early in the movie, and I looked at Robert, I was like, gee, I wonder if that's going to come back later. And of course, it's like the Thing at the end. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like, use it, fine, but don't make it the Thing at the end. Like, that's really the Thing? And so it was so... I was like, oh, it's bad writing.
Yeah, it was lazy.
Bad writing, lazy writing.
And again, that was the other...
unfunny writing. I did not. You chuckled once.
There was a couple,
but I did not chuckle. There was a
couple chuckles, but holy fuck! Again, the forced laughs and the slapstick crap was garbage.
The theater was silent for a lot of it.
For a lot of it, yeah. There were a few like here and there, single chuckles and shit like that. But for overall, it was. Man, I made me not like Venom.
It didn't make me not like Venom. It made me not like cinematic Venom even.
Well,
it's just I
not,
continue to
know
not
what
like
I mean.
him. Yeah, it's just
Venom,
it's not Venom.
This
is not Venom to me.
No,
it's they got the characterization wrong all along the way, but a lot of people like the characterization, so a lot of people will probably like this.
Well, because again,
people that aren't latched on to the actual comic version of the lore are probably going to be okay
and I
with
can
it.
see again why.
Like, you guys will probably enjoy it, but like you will see the flaws that we can't really divulge exactly what they are without spoiling. But there's definitely some flaws, and a lot of the flaws are in the execution of the story. Which, circling back, the Null sends these creatures out, and one lands on Earth, and essentially it tries to seek out Venom, because Venom is the one with this magical MacGuffin that everything is after, called the Codex. But very conveniently, the Codex is only visible to this alien creature when he's full Venom. He can be like partial Venom, and it won't see them. And not only that, but there's a scene in the trailer. Like, this is how stupid it gets, and I don't care about telling you this because it's not really a spoiler. It just goes to the stupidity. But at one point in the trailer, you see there's an alien creature on a plane going after Venom, and Venom's like, "Oh crap," and you see that happen. How the creature gets to the plane is it sees Venom on the plane, because he becomes full Venom on the plane. It sees him from the ground, from somewhere, and it jumps.
He was on a mountaintop.
It just jumps. And it jumps, and it goes, and it lands perfect. It doesn't have wings. It just jumps, and it perfectly lands on a moving Airbus, whatever the fuck it was, because Venom makes it very clear that it's not a 747. It's an Airbus, blah, blah, A24, something or other.
I told you we'd fly!
Yeah. And so, it's so stupid. Like, the thing can just jump in, 20,000 feet into the air and land exactly where it needs to on a plane that, let's face it, is not moving slowly, in spite of the fact that when you look up and see a plane, it appears to be moving slowly. It is not moving slowly. It is moving quite fast through the air.
It can jump over 600 miles an hour.
It, calculated its trajectory and, jumped and land. Anyway, just one of the stupid things. One of the other things that Robert was referring to is the biggest stupid thing, where they spend the whole first half of the movie saying, literally, it's referring to the fact that they can't become full Venom.
Yeah.
Okay, we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do this. And then something happens, we're not going to spoil.
Yeah.
But something happens where like they throw that logic out the window
completely. They're like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna come.
Like,
I'm
just
gonna
it doesn't.
do it.
Yeah, it's just because, and it's just terrible.
It's
and
awkward.
so yeah, Venom has to survive this thing trying to come and get him and retrieve him for Null, because whatever it is going to free Null from Null's prison, and that's that's what you find out in the first act of the movie. And then everything else plays out, and there are other symbiotes that are in this captive base that we learn about, early on, because we follow this character played by Kinsey from Ted Lasso. For anyone that watches that, Kinsey plays a scientist in this that is studying the symbiotes that have landed on Earth over the years and stuff like that. And so all of that gets wrapped up in the plot, but it's not interesting, and it's not done in a way that I cared about.
Yeah, it doesn't really go anywhere. It's just there just for a filler in the story of this is another location that we have for some more symbiote stuff.
Acting wise, it's
good.
Give and take. I mean, I think there's some that are stronger than others for sure. I think I was not a fan of, like, I think Tom Hardy was just getting less and less enjoyable in the role every movie. Again,
he kept being like a frail shell of himself in each one. Like, he
was like the damsel in distress.
He was a scared child through the whole thing.
Yeah, it was not really entertaining. And
I get the nervousness of the the situation. Sure. But he's been the same way in all three fucking movies.
He's the shit on foil, for the whole thing. So it's just not entertaining, especially as a Venom fan, as much as I am. No. And then we talked about the effects. The filmmaking is just basic. Like, at least I could tell. Kind of like the problem I had in the first movie is that you couldn't tell what was happening in the final fight because it was two symbiotes and it was moving. It was like Michael Bay Transformers, early Transformers, and then when non-Michael Bay people started to direct them, you could see what the action looked like. This one, I feel like you could see what the action looked like, but it was still pretty choppy at times and still hard to follow in that last fight because there was so much going on. Yeah, that was
kind of ridiculous.
And multiple symbiotes and the symbiote creatures and everything. Yeah. So like it gets crazy, but not in an interesting or good way. Like the whole movie is a big mess, big mess. No. So I don't have much more to say about it. Oh, no. You wanted to touch on the music.
I don't know who the hell was in charge of the music in this damn movie, but you need to get kicked in the nuts.
The soundtrack was
holy
tough.
shit.
The score was okay, I guess.
It was a basic soundtrack. It was a basic ass score.
Yeah, but the soundtrack where they were needle dropping.
Weird country pop songs. Again, what is up with all these random hip hop songs that don't they start off okay? You had a good little.
There's no cohesion music-wise.
No, just cohesion. Because your title has fucking Null and Void or Venom or whatever. I'm looking at you, Eminem.
It was The Last Dance. It's not even.
It was fucking garbage.
Like, yeah, it's a stupid subtitle. They should have called it Lethal Protector or something. It would have been a lot better. But anyway, yeah, it's just bad, guys. We don't want to go much more into it. We're not going to do a spoiler section because it's not worth it. But it's not entertaining. No. And I mean, I don't know. If you like the first two, you might like it.
Yeah,
you might like it.
Personally, though, I would save you money for the theaters and just, if anything, just wait up for a streaming.
I would wait.
It's not really.
If you're gonna watch it, I would wait. But hey, if we're wrong, let us know in the comments below. Or if you think we're wrong, let us know. No hate. If you enjoyed it, great. I don't think any less of anyone. I don't think they have less brain power or anything. I just think that it's not for me because I'm so attached. Again, he's one of my top 3 favorite comic book characters of all time. And it's just he's been done dirty in technically 4 different movies now when you include the Spider-Man post-credit sequence.
Yeah, well, it just felt cheap and lazy, and again, you could tell that there were just way too many cooks in the kitchen when it came to the story.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. That's going to do it for our thoughts on Venom: The Last Dance. Let us know what your thoughts are once you see it in the comments down below, or even if you want to see it. I'd be curious to know your thoughts. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
Roll with the Wolfman.
And remember, stay scared.